Good evening, everyone. This is Niyi Adewale, host of the Ekabo Home Financial Freedom Mastermind Group. And today I'm reporting live from the road in Boca Raton. I'm actually out here to partner up with one of the vendors that we use for our short-term rental business, meeting up with them for the first time in person tomorrow, which would be awesome. I'll keep you posted on that. But I did not want to miss out on this Wednesday call. So you can notice the camera's not as high quality because I'm just working off the computer and things of that nature. But excited to hear from you guys what you're working on and anything that I can help with and any type of conversations that we want to jump into. But this is going to be an open session, so feel free to go ahead and throw any questions in the chat and or join live, and we will get this thing started. And to join live, you're going to want to click that live call in button at the bottom, and we'll be able to accept you in or to send in messages through the chat. On a complete side note, being back down in Florida for the first time in well, that's only been a week, but being back down in Florida twice in 1 week has given me a newfound appreciation. This weather down here is awesome in the fall and wintertime. It's warm. The palm trees swaying side to side is peaceful. With the hurricanes, things of that nature, I don't know if I could live here, but definitely like visiting Florida and probably should take more advantage of that. And again, this is going to be an open session, so feel free to throw any questions in the chat and or join via the live call in, and we'll get this thing started. The man, the myth, the legend himself. AJ, how you doing, man?
Hey, what's going on, E?
Not much, not much. What you got going on?
Nothing much. Just the evening grind. I know 7 o'clock hit, and that's usually when the podcast starts. I was outside doing a little bit of maintenance on my car, but I said, "Oh snap!" So, usually, I like to tune in and have the live chat going on. But anytime I can't be presentable, if I got my hands and tied up doing some different things, I'll just join on from the phone. The only drawback from joining from the phone is that I can't actually pull out the video and do a video chat, so I can just listen in. But that's the only drawback. So ran in the house and grabbed my laptop because I wanted to kind of chat with you and see how things were going for you.
Come on now. I appreciate it. And I love the background over here. That blue door still pops, man. It's dope. And I'm starting to think like, man, I gotta paint my one of my houses because the door is like brown and it kind of wards people away. But no, things are going good, man. I'm actually sitting in Florida right now. And I know you utilize Hospitable for some of your messaging
Yep.
and things of that nature. So I'm actually doing a video with them. Their marketing director, because we have a lot of properties with them. I've done some stuff for them in the past, and so they reached out to me last week to say, "Hey, could you come down to help with something like a recording or whatever?" And so long story short, I am in Boca Raton. Get to meet up with some of these guys tomorrow, which would be awesome. And I plan to ask a lot of questions around kind of what they got coming out because I'm always interested in new stuff.
That's what's up, man. I really I've been using Hospitable ever since you recommended it to me. So ever since I jumped into the Airbnb business, Verbo business, things like that. Hospitable is really, really nice, and it's made my experience as a host a lot more seamless. I know I have a specific story in mind actually that just recently happened. So, one feature that I really love about Hospitable is the bad review option. And I don't like giving out bad reviews. I'm an honest man. If somebody, most of the time, all of my guests, they get 5-star reviews for staying, so long as they treat the property well, follow all the reviews, follow all the instructions, check in and check out. But I recently just had a like really bad guest. She basically just didn't follow any of the check-in instructions. So there's the feature where it automatically just sends out the 5-star review if everything goes solid, and then if not, you can kind of check the bad review option. So I did that for her, but again, what I really like about this option is that it pretty much, as you know, the Airbnb has a like a 14-day period to leave a review from the host side and the guest side. So I triggered a bad review for her because again, I think she deserved it. She didn't follow any of the check-in instructions. And what's cool about the bad review option is that it literally, and I had to read up on this, but it literally kicks off the bad review like I think 30 seconds before the 14-day period window is over. So I think basically what that does is it protects the host, obviously, because a lot of guests, they'll leave retaliatory reviews if, you were to maybe leave a bad review, or maybe the situation wasn't as good between the guest and the host. So that got kicked off, and then basically she wasn't able to leave a retaliatory review on her end, which she actually tried to. She tried to. I guess she thought she was going to leave a public review, but she actually just DM'd me thinking that it was a public review. Um,
And what was that like?
it was crazy. I mean, she just I forget exactly what she said, but um, it was just lies. And again, like I'm not in the business of leaving bad reviews. I want all of my guests to have 5-star reviews, just as much as I want a 5-star review as a host. But the thing is, if you really make it a hard time for me as a host, I mean, I think that's what it's there for, just for the host community to check out. And like you leave me no choice. If you're not going to follow the check-in instructions, the check-out instructions, then I mean, you'll just get what you deserve. So that's what ended up happening. And I guess again, like I said, she thought she was leaving a public review, but she just DM'd me directly. And at that point, I didn't respond. I don't think
No need to.
it's
No, and literally, when I look at that stuff, so that bad review, I'm with you on that. I use that even if the guest was good, right? And they had an issue. Say like a water heater went out for a night or something, and we weren't able to get somebody out there and things of that nature. Even if we resolved it, just to be safe, I'll click the bad review button, but leave them a good review, and it still delays it. So even if somebody leaves you a bad review, you have 14 days before it's going to show up. So you can get more reviews in there to kind of boost up things of that nature. So we use
exactly.
it for the situation that you had, and even if we're like iffy, like, hey, I don't know how this review is going to come out, we'll click that button just so it's delayed, so it doesn't hit us immediately.
Exactly. And I read it, like I said, I read up on it, and they really do wait until the last second to kick that bad review off. I was thinking that maybe, it'd be maybe a date like on the 13th day to kick off the review. Like, no, Hospitable kicks that off literally 30, like I read it up, it was like 30 seconds before the 14-day review period is over. So I thought that was pretty funny, but it is extremely useful because, I mean, as you know, in the Airbnb business, the short-term host rental business, like you really have to protect your profile, and reviews are everything. It's that kind of like the bread or butter of how we continue to get more bookings in the future. So I really appreciate that, just that feature from Hospitable, one of the many great features from Hospitable.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Desmond, how you doing?
What's up, man? I'm hanging out. Glad to see you
Hey,
made it.
come
Glad
on
to
up.
see you're in sunny Boca Raton,
Yeah, man. It was low key. I was in the security line, and thank you for the ride
for
too. But I
sure.
was in the security line when they were boarding. So I was like, all right, I don't know if I'm gonna make this, but by God's grace, I got right in, last person on board, and
Jeez.
made it here. So we're here. We are good to
Yeah,
go.
man. Sorry we ended up cutting it so close.
No worries. It was worth it. I'm hoping that we can make that thing happen. Not gonna mention too much, but outside of that, how was the rest of your day?
Man, day's going good. I'm taking a little break from working. So I do actually work on my W-2 job. I don't just manage my rentals and plot on other properties. But yeah, things are going well. And yeah, man, I'm here, just trying to soak up as much knowledge as possible. I'm actually on my Hospitable trying to see what y'all are talking about this bad review. I don't really use it for leaving reviews. I always just go to the app and like click through really quick. But literally just last week I started setting it up. I'm like, man, I'm tired of like clicking through these like stars and like putting the same message every time. Because I pretty much just, assuming they didn't like trash the place, I pretty much just give like 5 stars and like say a nice message. Because like I don't really know. Like most guests I'm not really talking to, and then for the ones that do end up causing an issue, like I do, I know those, and like I'll tend to that. But typically, I kind of just put the same thing. So I'm trying to see what y'all are talking about. And
AJ, you want to walk him through it?
yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
And quick question though about this, about the retaliation. Like Airbnb doesn't allow for that, right? Because they can't see your review until they put one, right?
Right.
Yes, but you don't want to encourage. So the piece that AJ's talking about is you get reminders to leave a review, just like when you're at a hotel, you get reminders to leave a review. The main piece with Airbnb is if somebody leaves you a review, it'll tell you, hey, this person left you a review, you should review them back. And so that's a nice prompt. If I get the normal one, it's like whatever. But if I get the one, hey, they left you a review, I'm like, okay, maybe I should leave a review. So that's where it can get you in trouble. Whereas with AJ's piece, when you delay it and they send it 30 seconds before, this person may not even see their email for 30 seconds. And then it's too late to try to say, oh, well, I'm going to hit them with a review because I know they hit me with a review.
Interesting.
Right. It basically just adds more protection for the host, honestly. So, like, if you have your good review set up, that's like an automated process. So, like, if nothing happens, I have a cleaner that cleans my property. So she just gives me the thumbs up. She says, they were great guests. I don't do anything. And that review just gets sent off. But in a situation where maybe, you had some communication issues with the guests or things like that, and maybe they may be anticipating, what's the best way I can describe it? So say a bad interaction happened with the guests, right? And their trip ends, as opposed to sending off that automated message, basically you can kind of go in and click, hey, send a bad review. And like Nee said, when you send a review as a host, that kind of triggers a message to them, say, hey, like the host left a review, please, rate the host and your experience. So the protection is there just to like not remind the guest that basically you left a review. So it leaves it to the last second. And then in that event, 30 seconds before the 14-day period is over for the review, they won't get any reminders because it's literally the last second. And
That's smart. That's sneaky.
yeah,
That's sneakily smart. I like that.
it is
It's
sneaky, but at the same time, I like it because like it's just I feel like in this the short term rental game there isn't a lot of protections for the host, and I think that's where hospitable comes in. That's just just a small thing, but it's extremely helpful in the grand scheme of things. It's just trying to protect your profile as a host.
And if you can see my screen, you actually just reminded me that I need to actually update this. We had a guest at one of the houses literally say that they wanted to, they said something about like, hey, my grandmother needs to get it. There was a whole bunch of stuff. But long story short, we looked at the Ring cameras and there was a whole block party there. No lie, like a whole block party. Through block party
That's
And
crazy.
I
house. It was nuts.
I remember seeing this check. I sent one of these off today. So that's cool that they don't send it to the last minute, so it doesn't encourage them to go leave you a negative. That's smart. That's really smart.
Yeah. So that's one way to use it. And thank you for the reminder, but I just wanted to show you real quick how to do that. Because I got to put reminders in my phone because I forget sometimes. There's so much going on. It's like, all right, who do we got to send that for?
Right.
And
But no.
it's not, I think it's a great feature. It's not that I want to send guests bad reviews. Honestly, I would really ideally want to send everybody 5-star reviews, right? But the truth of the matter is that not everybody, respects your business as you would hope they would treat it or respect it. So, I don't know. I think it's just something that's just an added feature that really helps hosts out, honestly.
And AJ, now that you got your property stabilized, well, semi-stabilized, right? What's next, man? What are you looking into for 2024? Have you started looking at goals for the next year?
I haven't quite yet, honestly. The quarter 2 and quarter 3 of the year was just extremely busy. Just trying to procure this house hack, going through that contract process. And then obviously after, getting the new property and then setting everything up with the short-term rental stuff, the Airbnb and everything. Q4, I'm honestly just trying to take a little breather, enjoy myself a bit, and just get my mind prepped for the new year, right? I don't want to like run myself into the ground going into the new year and then not have the energy and the momentum to keep me, moving forward for the next year. So this winter, I just want to kind of enjoy myself, see friends, family, and then definitely have some plans upcoming for the new year. But definitely keep you tuned when that happens.
Come on now. And Desmond, what about you, man? You started game planning for the new year yet, or what?
Man, and that's what we were trying to kind of take care of earlier today. So AJ, and for the folks in the audience, Nee was over at my property earlier. I'm looking to purchase the fourplex across the street, and that kind of ended up just developing naturally out of conversations I've been having with the owner. He owns multiple properties on the street, so it kind of fell into my lap where he's looking to offload some of his properties. I'm looking to purchase my next property. So definitely want to get that, ideally wrapped up by the end of the year. Like that would be dope if we could have the closing by the end of the year, right? So we'll see how that goes. We're starting to work on an offer now, right? And then going into the new year, man, tax planning and strategizing is the next kind of piece on my list. So I've been interviewing CPAs like pretty much all month. I had 2 calls with 2 different ones today. So trying to see who's going to be the best fit, right? Who can help me get on Trump's level in terms of tax burden, right? Because folks be, dogging him and trashing him. But I was talking to a friend earlier. I'm like, yo, like, I feel like in the investor world, like, that's the goal. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I get my burden down to 0, folks can talk about me as much as they want. You know what I mean? Like, I welcome that criticism if, those are the kind of problems I have, right? So I'm trying to bring in someone who's knowledgeable about not only real estate, but also about, someone who can factor in my total picture in terms of income and, have a good plan going forward. And, like, not only trying to get this year's taxes buttoned up, but also like looking toward the future and, just trying to have some sort of game plan, right? It's still, a bit early in my investing, career, if you will. But yeah, I think that's the next piece I want to, kind of wrap up. I've got bookkeeping kicking off now. So Mayor, hopefully they're hard at work as we speak, getting my books that are so behind and so trashed in order. I hope they don't like charge me extra. But no, I think it'll be good. And yeah, man, that's mostly it. I think for kind of wrapping up this year. And yeah, we'll see where next year takes us.
I like it. And I think those two go hand in hand, getting the books in order,
Mm-hmm.
and then so you can actually present clean books to the CPA
Mm-hmm.
that can help you figure out, hey, where can we allocate? Where can we, do we need to buy a property? Do we need to cost segregate a property? Do we need to, move these funds to come from here? There's so many ways to make it happen. And that's a huge piece of the puzzle. Literally, when I made the decision to move away from the W-2 last year, it was not with the thought of making as much as I was going to make there in the first year, which it actually has, which has been amazing. But it wasn't with that thought. It was with the thought that, hey, even if I make half of what I'm making there, the tax benefits alone and all the stuff that I've had kind of aggregate over the years that I couldn't take advantage of before will be enough to make up the difference. And it more than has. Like this year was the first year I got an actual check back in like 7 years. I was like, man, this is pretty cool. I don't owe money to the IRS. I'm actually getting money back. So I'm hoping to continue with that. We'll see how it looks. But one of the goals I have for heading into next year as well is to focus on the team. Focus on building the team super strong. You guys have met a lot of the different team members. Right now, just trying to work on moving everybody up to that next level to where we can all really take over the Metro Atlanta market, man, and kind of Georgia, right? We're trying to grow the team. We now have 6 individuals on the team with now a transaction coordinator full-time working with us. And so it's just trying to pass over whatever knowledge I have to make sure that it's a seamless experience no matter who you're talking to on that team. So that's kind of my main focus heading into 24. And then from an investing standpoint, trying to keep it going. Like, definitely love the fact that we can now get multiplexes with 5% down. So I plan to take advantage of that next year, hopefully early next year before anything happens with interest rates. I want to get it while everybody's still kind of shied away. And then from the investment going on in Louisville, we are finishing up with storage. It's going to happen, I'm going to say end of November. There's been plenty of delays, right? I think that's with any type of ground up build, but excited to get that one off the books because right now it's like, every other month, hey, 30K here, 40K there. It's like, all right, this is kind of a lot. That's adding up. And so once that one's up and running, it'll be off the books. We can refinance that thing, pull a lot of capital out because it's definitely worth more than what they gave us to build it. And so that's kind of the main focus I got heading into 24.
And the self-storage piece, that's a part of the larger townhome community that you're building, right? So that was kind of the first piece that you guys are knocking out, and then the townhomes are going to follow from that.
Exactly. And this was kind of that proof of concept to be able to show people, hey, this is one that we've done from the ground up. Because in my mind, I think the best way to pitch investors and things of that nature and what I look for is track record. Like, have you done something like this before? Right. So, no, we haven't built the townhomes from ground up, but look right next to it. We have the whole team in place and we built the storage from ground up, went through the whole process. Townhomes adds, maybe a couple more elements because now you got to put in like plumbing, things of that nature. But outside of that, it's the same stone walls going up. And so, yeah, we're planning to finish this piece, get that thing leased up quickly, and then move on to the townhomes because we still need to raise the rest of those funds to make it happen. But I actually talked to Ricardo at BPCon last week, and he is hard at work trying to find a commercial lender that can compete with the lending that we already got to see if we can get even better lending for 75% of that project.
Nice. That's very cool. And I remember the last time you brought it up, you said that there was like 200K or like some crazy number, like someone's salary that you had to go find in money.
Yeah.
How did that go, and how were you able to like pull that together? Did you kind of just have that sitting in your back pocket, like, hold on, let me just find my checkbook, or like, how does that work?
No, I wish. So and this is why literally, so what you're doing right now, both of you guys, right, is incredible. And this is how you get to that point. It's just being consistent, buying one property at a time and letting that thing just grow. So those properties I bought way back when in Louisville, I was able to just sell off a couple of those and there goes the money, right? Like, we talked about the first one I bought. I bought it for 190. Sold it for 310, right? That's a 6-figure check right there. That's like half of the way there, right? Now I use that to allocate and buy some more here, but that was one of maybe 6 different separate properties that I sold off to reallocate the money into buying property here and the Taylorsville investment project. So that's kind of where most of the funds came from. And then, obviously closing deals, things of that nature. I'm putting some more away for the future and for the next project, but it was just being able to sell off those small multi-units that I bought previously to get this one. Like imagine, 2 years from now, right? A large multi-unit, maybe in a location around you comes available.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, I've got equity in these other ones. Is it worth selling these 2 off to go and take this one on? Maybe it is, right? And so that's kind of what it was. It was trading up, trading in the small units to get one large one that is not going to require really any of my time or headaches. I don't got to get any more emails from property management saying, hey, this is broken. We got to take care of this. We got to replace a whatever. Right.
I have a quick question. So when you sold off those properties in Louisville, how much did the tax liability kind of eat into your profits? Was it like a big chunk, small amount? Did you know some, wizardry with the tax codes or laws? Like, how did you navigate that?
So we're going to find that piece out in this tax year. So I'm hoping it's not too crazy. We'll figure that out. But a couple things that are going for us, right? One, we did updates to all of these different properties, right? And so any updates that I did was while I was working the W-2. And so I wasn't able to take any of that. It was just, forgetting exactly what you call it, but it was just aggregating, right? Like while you're working a W-2, if you're a high income earner and you go and replace a roof, you're not able to depreciate that right now. Like it just adds up for you until such time that you can become a real estate professional or that you can use that, like if you sell the property. And so long story short, I can give you one example. There was a 12 unit that we sold, right? I bought it for 500K. I think we sold it for like
500K, a 12 unit?
Yeah, it's in Louisville.
Jesus.
It needed work. Like we did foundation work, new roofs, it was a lot going on. Bed bugs, it was all the stuff going on, and we had to switch out all the tenants, and it was all one bedrooms. But long story short, we were able to sell that for like 690 or something like that, or maybe 700, uh, something like that, right? And the tax burden, instead of being 200K, when we factored in all the money that we put in to get all these updates done, the CPA was like, "Hey, man, there's only like 80K that you're going to have to pay taxes on, right? Because we're going to be able to take all this other stuff as quote unquote losses." Um, and so at that point, I could 1031 it into another property or just pay taxes on the 80K, which is fine. Taxes on 80K, capital gains, if you're doing like 25%, is 20K. And if you're getting 200,000, I don't mind paying a 20K fee and then being able to do whatever with the 180. So that's how we were able to navigate some of those. But the full effect we're going to figure out this year. But I plan to do a cost segregation in that 4 unit. I plan to, and I got a couple other things I need to talk to my CPA about. But that's one thing I'm going to do this year to try to negate that.
Got you. So it sounds like you were able to take advantage of the proper tax deductions from the sweat equity you put into the property. Is that correct?
For the most part, yep. That plus now I'm considered a real estate professional, and so I can take a lot more deductions from other things, right? Like, hey, just driving around, or my home office, things of that nature, right? That will help negate some of that.
Gotcha. And so that property that you're talking about specifically, is that in like a business, like a LLC, or is that just like I guess financed through your personal name? Which one would that fall under?
Both. So all the properties, right, that we own and things that, well, except for the commercial properties, were all purchased in my name because you
Mhm.
get the best lending, right? And then I moved it to the LLC 30 to 45 days after. The 12 unit was purchased commercial because like you wouldn't get it in your name anyway. But all the small multifamilies and the single family homes purchased in my name so we can get the mortgage and then transferred to the LLC about 30 to 45 days after closing.
Now, what's the benefit of doing that? Now, I know the first thing you mentioned was obviously, you get better lending terms buying under your personal name. But if you're just going to move it over into the LLC, just maybe a month or two after the purchase, then kind of what's the benefit of doing it that way versus just, like I said, like purchasing it directly through the business, other than
It,
the lending terms?
That's the only purpose. It's just the lending terms. Because if you buy it through an LLC, you'd only do that if you're doing a hard money loan where it doesn't matter, you're buying cash and you're going to flip it for liability protection, or if you're going to do commercial, right? Because commercial is different lending anyway. They're only going to give you amortized over like 20 years instead of 30 years. So your payment's going to go up, and they're only going to keep your rate the same for like 5 years, right? And
Mhm.
so it doesn't matter. You can buy through a business. Um, but the whole point of that is for the lending. So you can get the low down interest rate that they're talking about on TV, which is still a lot lower than commercial, right? Commercial right now is through the roof. Um, and then just transfer it over for liability protection is the reason you move to the LLC after.
Right. And I feel like there's some kind of caveat to that. Did you face any challenges trying to transfer the property into the LLC? Can you talk about that?
Transferring is actually super easy. There's something called a quick claim. I can give you a lawyer in Georgia that can knock that piece out. I think it costs like $300, something like that. And they literally bring you in and you sign for both parties and you quit claim the property to the LLC, and then the LLC owns it. The piece you're thinking about probably is the due on sale clause, right? Where if you change ownership of the home, the bank could technically say, hey, you got to pay this back. That being said, all the years I've done it, in all the books I've read and podcasts, I've never actually seen this or known somebody that's had this called. As long as you keep paying that mortgage, the banks typically aren't looking to open their books and start looking through everything and like, hey, this person, that person, because they don't want to call this due and have to take the property, right? So as long as you're paying on time, things of that nature, you should be fine. I haven't run into any issues with that. Kind of doing that method.
Okay. And do you still keep the same protections op- now that the asset is under the business? Like, do you get that liability protection, although it previously was in your name?
And to be clear, I'm not a lawyer or a licensed professional. We'll keep it like that. I'm thinking like, oh,
Kind of drilling you on a lot of these questions here, but it's just something I'm like really interested in because
whatever
you get to
disclaimer
talk
they
about that.
normally say, I'm not that. But to that point, yeah. So from what I know, right, you do get that liability protection, especially if you set it up the right way with a lawyer, with the operating agreement, all of that. And now when people Google that property, the owner is going to show up as the LLC, not your name, right? Now, if somebody really wanted, they could figure out hey, who's in the LLC. It would take a little bit of digging, but it gives you one step removed. Like, for example, Desmond, if you were to move into another home after buying it, the next step would be to put your current one into an LLC, right? You don't want to do that with a personal home. If you live there, don't do it, right? Because it just complicates things. But when you move out, you want to put it in an LLC.
Yeah, and I was gonna bring that up actually, because I've been sitting here thinking like, dang, what's been preventing me from doing that with my current property? But you're saying because I currently live in it, that would cause complications. Do you know? And I know not legal advice, but do you know like what some of those complications might be, or like why do people stray away from that?
It would be tax related complications, which taxes are already complicated. So I try to keep it as simple as possible. But you'd want to talk to the CPA about that piece. I don't exactly remember the details. I just remember asking this early on, like, hey, I got this triplex for protection. Can I move this? And they're like, hey, do not do this for this, that, and the other. And just stuck with me. I'm like, okay, do it when you move out. If it's your personal property, don't put it in an LLC. As soon as you move out, move that thing to an LLC.
Mm-hmm. This really has me thinking now because my other property, I've been moved out of that since July now. So it's been some months. And that's just, its own Airbnb. Sometimes it's a midterm rental, depending on who we can get in there. But I'm really interested in that piece. And I'm just kind of curious if I should, start taking steps to figure that piece out and, form an LLC and then transfer it over if it's worth it. Not quite sure. I think that's something I'll have to figure that out with like a tax professional or CPA or somebody. But just kind of really curious on that aspect because, like I said, I've been moved out since July now. So,
And to that point, if you shoot me a text just so I can remember, I can give you the lawyer that I use to do that. And all I can do is speak from experience. I would personally move it to an LLC only because you don't live there anymore. And, not saying something's going to happen, but if there's like a slip and fall, things of that nature, that's the protection you're looking for to where, hey, this is a separate entity. And they'd have to take you to court and spend a lot of money to try to pierce the veil to say, hey, this is really the same. Because the LLC is technically its own person. So if somebody sues this, that's why I have an LLC in Louisville, right? Multiple. So if somebody sues the thing in Louisville, they're not suing me and taking properties in Georgia. They can only take what's in the LLC in Louisville, and things of that nature. So that's kind of the protection you're looking for.
And Nee, how much
right.
work have you done, or how much work is it, like, I guess, on a quarterly or like yearly basis to make sure that that veil isn't pierced? Because I hear that that's a big thing that you need to make sure of, because if that does happen, you're screwed and you might as well not even have the LLC because they can actually go after your personal name. So are there like annual meeting minutes that you have to keep? Are there, you mentioned the operating agreement, like how much work is it to actually run the LLC and, have that be proper?
I would say two things, right? One, the best protection you can have is just having good business practices, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just treating people the way you want to be treated and making sure that, we're not slumlords, things of that nature. That's like the best thing that you can do. And I know that everybody on here is already in the same mindset from there. And two, it doesn't take much time and effort, especially if you're going to be a single member LLC. Ideally, you want to have at least another member in there because then it's really hard to pierce the veil,
Mm.
right? Because then you got like in Louisville, I had another member that joined the LLC once we bought that 12 unit, right? And then we expanded from there. And so now that's truly like its own thing. Piercing the veil is a little bit easier when you have a single member LLC, just because it's like, okay, is this truly separate? And so with that, the way to make it truly separate is to have separate bank accounts. Do not commingle funds because that's the quickest way to pierce the veil. If they see, okay, payment from this property got Zelled to you personally, and then you transferred it to this account, it's all commingled, right? Or if you have it, you just got to keep it separate. So when you create an LLC, like I just created one for the fourplex up in Snellville, and I opened another bank account. I don't know how many I have now, but I have a lot of bank accounts, and and now all the profits and all the expenses and everything comes out of that same bank account, and it's not commingled with anything else, right? So that's how I keep it kind of separate. So if anybody was able to come to me and say, "Hey, was this actually a separate entity?" Yes, this is its own bank account. This is all the communication for it. and kind of go like that.
That makes sense. And is your plan to set up separate LLCs for each property so that each LLC is kind of like poor in the sense where if that LLC got sued, it's only this property that may be, up for grabs instead of your entire portfolio? Is that kind of the idea?
No, for me personally, I'm looking at just the equity that's in it. To your point, you do want to keep it quote unquote poor. You don't want to have millions of dollars in one LLC, right? But like if you are leveraged at, you have 5% in and 95% leveraged on 3 properties, right? You can bunch those together as long as it's in the same state. So like in Louisville, I had the whole cluster of most of our properties in one LLC. And then for this project that we're doing, that's 2 separate LLCs, one for the storage, because that's going to be worth upwards of 3 million when it's done, and it costs 2 million to build. And then an LLC for the townhomes, because that's going to be worth upwards of 28 million when it's done. It's going to cost about 20 million to build, right? And so, and then in Georgia, I have 3 LLCs, one for the real estate, one for the short-term rental business. And it's funny because I didn't know we were going to start a whole short-term rental business. So, so I had an LLC for the real estate that I had that was short-term rentals. And then the business started taking off and I had those 2 in the same one. And, my lawyer was like, hey, this is no, you got to split that. I was like, okay, let me get another one. And so I got 3 LLCs, one for the properties that I own, one for the short-term rental business so that anything happens there, it's only the business that they would take out, and then one for the realty business as well. But to answer your question, I think you want to look at the equity that's in an LLC. And my whole thought process is $500,000 to $1 million, you should start thinking about opening up another one for the other properties in equity.
I see. So based off of the equity position of that LLC, not necessarily the value of each property.
Yes. So if a property is valued at 500,000
right,
and you owe 450 to the bank, I wouldn't worry about it. Right. I'd be like, hey, it's all good. The bank would fight that battle because they have a lot more. Yeah. But if it was like flipped, right, where, hey, I have 2 properties that are worth $1 million together and I only have 100K here. Now you've got 900K in equity that somebody can come after. I'd start looking to create another LLC for whatever other property you got.
At what point did you go and get, because it sounds like you have a lawyer almost like on retainer in a sense. Like at what point did you start doing that? And at what point would you recommend that folks start, pursuing that? Because I've heard, you always hear like you need a lawyer. I don't have a lawyer, right? And don't put that part of the recording on Instagram. I don't want
I'm just figuring out where we're gonna slip and
what
fall.
hole can we poke because of that? Yeah, don't mention that too many folks.
I hope your Airbnb guests don't see this.
Right?
Man,
No, for real.
they're gonna after you.
Somebody's gonna fall on purpose. Yeah. So I'm wondering, but obviously, I feel I have access to it. I can go get a lawyer, right? I feel like just for most professions, you can go get that really quickly, but like at this point in time, I haven't felt the need to have one, right? I don't think I'm necessarily at that level of sophistication. So I guess at what point do you think that should be something that you have?
Man, so it's definitely not the first thing you're looking for. I think the CPAs and things of that nature are more important initially. But if you're thinking about building this thing and you're going from, hey, I have, one couple of units to now I'm going to buy my second couple of units, excluding your personal property, right? I would say, yeah, it's time to start at least getting the professionals on the roster, right? It's not that you have to have somebody on retainer, which we do for certain projects, like the commercial property. We have lawyers on retainer. They're like the ones looking at all the documents. They're sending us emails for updates every other week. So it's like a lot going on there. But in Georgia, I just have different lawyers that can do different things. And so, for example, before this year, I didn't have any long-term rentals in Georgia. And so I did not have an eviction lawyer, right? Now, actually, a member of the Ekabo home group, France, who was on before talking about like going through that whole process, I reached out to him like, hey, man, who'd you use for this? Got the contact. I talked to that person a couple months ago and locked in pricing, locked in number, locked in. I said, hey, if I get an eviction, what's the pricing and how can we make this work? And da 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 da. And so now I have an eviction lawyer on my roster. So if somebody doesn't pay, all I gotta do is send him X amount, and the contact info on the lease, and he would send out the letter. He would follow up and get it into court, get that person evicted out, and the money in our hands without me doing anything. So that's like one example,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think it's just as needed, kind of getting those contacts. And like for you, I'd say if you have some long-term rentals, you should have an eviction lawyer on staff. You could do it yourself, yes, but if you miss one step in that process of, hey, I need to send a letter within 7 days, and then I've got to, send it via USPS, and I got to send this postage over this way, and I got to file it in this court and show up on this date. Then it starts the whole process over. So that's one piece. When you talk about the LLC, that's one piece I can help with. Get you a lawyer for that. But it's almost like you don't need a plumber until there's an actual leak. But it'd be good to know somebody that you can call for that when you need it. Does that make sense?
Definitely. That's a good example. Okay.
Can I jump in right quick? And here's my thoughts on this. And you can 100% tell me if I'm wrong on this, but like, you know, my thoughts, especially like starting out, is to kind of just like get in the ring and start doing things. And I know we talked about a little bit about, just how your journey has evolved over time. And obviously your team is a lot more strengthened now. But I think that's one of the barriers and challenges for like people coming into the real estate game is trying to figure out all the different pieces that you need to like assemble together. And I know for somebody like me, if I'm sitting there, spending too much time trying to figure out the proper CPA, or maybe like the lawyer, I need an eviction lawyer, all these different pieces of the puzzle, like that may prevent me from just kind of jumping in and starting to just start investing, even LLCs, like in the entire realm, just trying to piece everything together. So you can tell me if you disagree on that, but I think what I'm doing right now is I'm just getting my hands dirty. I'm kind of like shoot first, ask questions later. And I think with that, you run into some challenges, but ultimately, and this is just from my experience investing over the past couple of years, like I've been able to kind of learn a lot, and I've been just learning from my mistakes. Whereas, like I said, if you just spend too much time trying to figure out like who you need and where to go find them and doing a lot of research, analysis, paralysis, you may not necessarily, start making progress. So I'm kind of curious on like what your thoughts are on that. If that's like, a way to go. Did you kind of start similar to that, or did you start, like assembling your team from the jump so that you had the best propensity like move forward and elevate your business?
AJ, I'm so happy that you brought this up because we were going deep into the weeds here. And literally, like what you just said, you articulated it so well. Like when you look at this game, you really just got to jump in. I can't tell you how many conversations I have with newer investors on the daily where we're talking about LLCs and CPAs. We don't even have the first property yet. I'm like, guys, let's go get the first property, and then we'll figure out how to get the next one,
Yeah.
and then you'll add these pieces. So to your point, no, I didn't have any of these people. Right? It was me trying to figure it out.
It makes
I
me
got the
feel a lot better.
triplex. No, I got the triplex. I started going from there, and I was like, okay, how do I get another one? And then, I got this job opportunity. Now I'm going to buy this 12plex. And I'll tell you this: even when I first was running the numbers in that 12plex, right, the first time I was going to buy it, I ran the numbers as a 30-year fixed. I didn't necessarily understand that the lending was going to be different. I'm like, oh man, this is a knockout hit. This is crazy. Why are they selling this? And then we get into under contract, and I start talking to the lender, and they're like, no, it's not 30 years. You're going to get 20 years to pay this. Your interest rate's going to be X. And I'm like, oh, the numbers don't even look that great to start out. And so, no, it's one where you do need to jump in. I think more than anything, what you said, just taking action is the most important step in the beginning. And then as you start to go along, you'll just learn along the way, right? Like and Desmond, I'd love to get your thoughts on this because I know you're fully into this too. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you, right? I think, coming out of the gate, you end up wearing a lot of those different hats, right? And then you see where your weaknesses are or just where you can't do everything, right? So you're almost forced to end up pulling someone in. So like I've dealt a lot with this, right? So like coming out of the gate with my short-term rentals, I was the cleaner, right? And me and my girlfriend were the cleaner. So after a while, we were like, look, like this we can't do this. And like, Nee and Kareem, and shout out to Kareem who's not here right now, but like, most people were saying, hey, like, you're gonna get tired of that. And I'm like, no, like, it's good right now, like, it's working, and it was. But after a while, man, after so many trips to the laundromat, I'm like, man, we got to bring someone in because this just isn't scalable, right? And this isn't the best use of our time. This isn't the most efficient thing that we could be doing. And I think that's where a lot of, the team building comes in. You just realize, like, this could be much more efficient if we could probably be doing this in a better way if we brought in a person whose literal, profession is doing this, right? I'm running into the same thing right now with the bookkeeping, right? So starting out, I was the bookkeeper on the team, right? And I was making sure that the books were in order, or at least trying to do so. And literally, I fell out of that like back in April. Man, I was like, man, I'm so tired of looking at this goddamn website. And I wasn't even using QuickBooks at the time, which now, the bookkeeping team, Umair has pushed me to do that, and I have QuickBooks set up, and, they're going through that whole process. But starting out, I was trying a bunch of different softwares. I had Quicken, which would not recommend. I had Stessa, which is another, tool for, trying to track your real estate books. But I think it really just starts to develop naturally, right? And after a while, maybe after going through one eviction, you realize, okay, like, this is a good person to have onto the team, right? Or like after your books, are just in shambles, you're like, okay, I should probably bring in someone to like button this up for me. So I think that's where a lot of it comes out of, and you start to see it as it develops. So yeah.
Yeah, but AJ, to your point, man, you've got to just jump in. For anybody that's new or looking to get their first one, you literally just got to get in the game. You can't be afraid to make mistakes because that's how you learn. That's how you get better. And like the first property I bought compared to the most recent property I bought, it's night and day. The types of challenges I can take on now, and the contractors that I know that can get work done confidently, and the numbers and things of that nature. And the only reason I know all this stuff is because we've been through this for 8 years, right? When you look at professional athletes, typically when they come into the league, they're not that great, right? They go from amazing in college to, professional athletes like, what happened, right? And it takes about 4 or 5 years before they fully develop and are crushing it and are in their prime, right? And I think we got to take the same approach when you look at this real estate game, when you look at, just life in general, right? Or business. Like, it's going to take a couple years before you hit your stride and really start to understand exactly what you're doing and the pieces that are needed to kind of solve this puzzle. And you just got to keep taking it one step at a time. Like, my team did not look like it did. I mean, even last year, when you look at the real estate team, right? It's a blessing to be able to say, like, hey, we got 6 agents that are going to be coming at you, heading in 2024. Last year, it was me. It was me trying to figure it out. I was like, okay. And I was like, hey, man, there's 4 under contract and I'm running around and I got to do this paperwork and I can't keep up with it. Let me get a transaction coordinator. Okay. I need to be at 2 places at once, and I can't do it because one's in the Blue Ridge Mountains and one's in the middle of Atlanta. Let me get a showing assistant, right? And then you keep growing from there.
Yeah. And like, if somebody hasn't said it already on the podcast, like, I'll be the first to admit that all of my ducks are not in a row. I'm sure there's a lot of things that I can improve on, but to me, like, I'm just getting started. I have, 1 or 2 years under my belt. And at this point, like, I feel like, I have no other choice other than to just jump in, because if I wait around and sit here and try to figure out, all the pieces and try to make it perfect, then, I just feel like I won't be making any progress. And then, if I'm not failing, then I actually won't learn. You have to grow and from your failure. So, I think that's just what I'm trying to do right now. I just wanted to kind of check with you guys to see, where you guys were at too, because if I should have had my ducks all lined up, then I guess, I missed that part already because I'm already like way ahead of the game. I'm just doing things. I'm trying to jump in there. Got the real estate set up. I'm doing Turo. So I'm just trying to figure it out.
Man, I want to hear more about that Turo next time for sure. I'm interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, hit me up. I know we're, coming up on kind of the end of the call here, but I mean, we could definitely talk a lot about that. I have 1 car up and running right now. I'm trying to get 100% ROI so I can basically reinvest. I'm pretty much like halfway there at this point. So, once we hit that number, basically be looking to go back out in the market, buy another used vehicle, and rinse and repeat. So that's my strategy right now.
I'm gonna text you.
Gotcha.
All right, y'all. Hey, AJ, Desmond, it's awesome as always to catch up. I appreciate you guys, and I wish you a great rest of this Wednesday evening, and I will catch you next week.
Take it easy. Enjoy Florida, Nee.
Thank you, man.
See ya.
Absolutely. See you.